Time to look at games with Gerard Campbell, Game Junkie NZ at stuff.co.nz, also the Game Junkie 2.0 blog. Gerard, that'll be you. Hello, Gerard.
That would be me. Hello, Wammo.
Good.
How are you?
I'm very good, thank you very much. And today we're looking at games flying under the radar, or perhaps games that are a little bit risky for the developers. They are not the blockbusters, they're not the Call of Duties, the Medal of Honours, they're not the shoot-'em-ups. Games that perhaps they're taking a wee bit of a risk on.
Yeah, there's once in a while you get some games come through from the publishers, and I think it's probably a big risk for the publisher too, to sort of put their backing behind the game that may be doing something a wee bit different, maybe trying something a little different, And I guess for publishers, they like safe games where they can.
Well, it's like Hollywood, isn't it? They like a good blockbuster. It's one that's going to earn them a lot of money, right?
Exactly. It's things like the Transformers movies. They blow, but they know they're going to get lots of people seeing them.
Yeah.
So, like publishers like games like Call of Duty and those sort of things because, they sell well no matter what. And things like Duke Nukem Forever. It was always going to sell well.
Yeah.
Because of the legacy behind it and the history behind it. But, I was sort of coming up with a bit of a list of some of the, sort of games that I've played over the years that they've received critical acclaim. Most of them have, but, they just haven't been picked up by consumers for some reason. It's just a bizarre thing. There's games like, I think a couple of weeks ago we talked about Child of Eden, the Kinect-based one.
Yes.
It came from the guy behind Rares and Luminas, which has received really strong critical acclaim because it really is doing something different with the Kinect from what we used to.
Yeah.
But I understand when it was launched in the US in June, it only sold 34,000 copies, which is
man,
nothing.
That is nothing, especially in the American market. It's astounding.
Exactly, yes, And things like Two Shadows of the Damned apparently only sold about 124,000 copies as well. So they were both, they're both new games out now that for publishers are taking a risk, and they'll probably now think, was the risk worth it? But there's also games like, there was a classic Tim Schafer game called Psychonauts, which came out on the original Xbox, maybe PS2, but I think that I've certainly got it on the original Xbox, which was a brilliant sort of platformer game with a sort of little kid that could read minds and that sort of thing, and it didn't do very well consumer-wise, but critically it was really acclaimed. Things like Enslaved Odyssey to the West too, which came out from Namco, I think, last year.
Yeah.
It was a really, really good game, and it didn't sell well.
But what's challenging about these games?
Well, I think it's the fact that they try and move away from sort of the conventional norms, I think. They're not corridor-based shooters, or they're not games with mission-based objectives where you must storm this or storm that. They try, things like Psychonauts was different because it sort of tried different sort of platforming elements that we'd seen before.
Yeah.
And I think Enslaved Odyssey to the West too, it had really strong cinematic feel to it, and used Andy Serkis, who did sort of the motion cap for the main character, and it had a really strong cinematic appeal, and I wonder whether that just... I'm going to cough for a second. Excuse me. Whether it just didn't appeal, or maybe it wasn't market. And I think too, maybe games like Shadows of the Damned, the marketing isn't really big from EA. I can't recall seeing a lot of advertisements for it. I can see a lot of advertisements for Duke Nukem and those sorts of things. So the game's always out there in the public eye.
I just wonder, what about a game like LA Noire, which has, it comes from Rockstar, so it's got a certain amount of hype about it. But I just wonder how well that's done, because it is a game that is outside the norm. The gameplay isn't go shoot 'em up. It's not Fast and Furious.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen figures for LA Noire, but I think it would probably sell quite well because there has been a huge marketing push for it.
Yeah. So a lot of it comes down to that, doesn't it?
Well, it does, because if it's in the public eye all the time, if you see banners on the wall, if you see posters on bus stops, if you see TV advertisements for this game, then, subconsciously you're going to, next time you're in a game store or whatever, you're going to think, oh, yeah, I've seen that one advertised, it looks pretty cool.
But what about thinking personally, if it wasn't your job to review games and check out all these games, would you have looked at some of these other titles that we're talking about?
I would, yeah, because I really like, and I'd also like to touch on there's a public beta. I don't know. I've got a key for it, which is good. There's a public beta for a game called Journey, which comes from a game development studio called That Game Company, and it's a PlayStation 3 exclusive game. And they also did a game called Flower. And these games, they really appeal to me because these are games which really, they try something different, which I think is really good. They're innovative. They're actually something fresh. I mean, Journey, for example, it's a game where you've got this sort of androgynous traveller, which is almost like wearing a burqa-type get-up or gowns or whatever, who's wandering through this huge desert, picking up glowing things which can and make the scarf that he or she's wearing fly, and then you've got to reach this mountain at the end. You can see in the horizon, and it's got a multiplayer component to it. But the really surprising thing about the multiplayer is that there's no multiplayer lobby. There's no place where you say, right, let's go, guys, let's play multiplayer. You could just be playing the game yourself, and suddenly another player will be there. And you can try and solve the puzzles together, but you can't communicate. There's no headset. There's no voice chat. Your character can, with the press of the circle button, I think it is, emits a sort of shrill or chirp, and that's how you communicate. And you can do this. And like Flower, these are games that are really pushing the boundaries. And to me, I would rather play a game that is going to sort of challenge me emotionally and really try something different. Than play another corridor shooter where you know that there's going to be a boss battle at the end of it, or you've got to rescue this or rescue that. So I think if I wasn't doing this, I think I would be going for games that are actually going to try and push it. Or they might not be critically, they might be critically adored, but they might not do so well commercially successful. But I think that.
Well, that's why
those sorts of games really appeal.
That's why we're here to highlight these kinds of games. So, if you are looking for something a little bit different, and I think there is a lull of game titles coming out right now, so now is probably a really good time. Shadows of the Damned, also Journey, it's closed beta, but that will be coming out soon. Flower, which has already come out, and
that's on the PSN. I mean things like Enslaved and Psychonauts, if you can find copies of those, and I think even I don't even think Alan Wake, did that well.
No, you're right, and it was a good game. I think in the end it was a good
solid game. So I mean there are a lot of little gems that people haven't necessarily played. That they just hunt out for them because they're a nice little thing to do. And
if you're on the Xbox, recommend always checking out the Summer or Winter of Arcade as well. There's always some really cool indie titles that come out on there that are well worth your time.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, thanks very much, Gerard.
Not a problem. Have a good day, Wammo.
Thank you. Cheers. Stuff.co.nz is in the technology sections where you find them. Also, just Google Game Junkie 2.0 and you'll come across his other blog there as well. Also on Twitter, twitter.com/GameJunkieNZ. Time now on